Don Lemon, journalist, civil rights activist, icon. A man so universally beloved, he's thinking of running for president. So revered, so broadly popular. Now, he's selling his flatulence. Yes, it's Don Lemon's Farts in a Jar. Each Don Lemon Farts in a Jar is carefully collected by a well-paid personal assistant after a fine meal of Grand Cassoulet Royale, quick sealed to capture all that fragrant elegance and overnight shipped to you to unbox, unscrew, and savor. Yes, now your home can smell just like the Manhattan penthouse of a former CNN anchor with Don Lemon's Farts in a Jar. Every jar comes personally autographed by Don's well-paid personal assistant, and your purchase will help fund the Don Lemon for President Exploratory Committee. Don Lemon's Farts in a Jar, just as full of crap as his reporting.
Welcome to Mark Moseley Show. Don Lemon thinks he could run for president. No, he actually thinks this. Check it out.
I know people are going to think I'm crazy. This is going to be the headline, and people are going to laugh about it. I think I could be president of the United States. I could definitely run this country better than Donald Trump. As an independent, though, there would be a hard time for me to run for anything because, you know, the way the system is set up, I'd have to choose a side. And so, you know, I probably would have to become a Democrat.
Meanwhile, he thinks that the charges against him are racist. Former CNN anchor Don Lemon denounced the federal charges stemming from his presence at a January protest inside a St. Paul, Minnesota church as racist during a panel at Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network convention. That's my Reverend Al Sharpton impression, which is in itself probably racist. Yes. I'm not allowed to do that as a white man in America in 2026. You are not allowed to do an impression of the Reverend Al Sharpton. But Don Lemon is talking about this. Hey, welcome to Mark Moseley Show. Yes. Yes, it's going to get nuts today. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Don Lemon is quoted as saying, to me and to most people, most sane, rational people, these are cooked up charges to, I believe, embarrass, really suppress journalism. Lemon said during that Thursday morning panel on misinformation. The irony of the Reverend Al Sharpton having a symposium on misinformation is just off the charts. Wow, that just hit me. That hit me hard. Don Lemon has been charged by the Justice Department with conspiracy to deprive rights and with injuring, intimidating, or interfering with the exercise of religious freedom at a place of worship under the FACE Act. The irony of that. Yes, how dare the DOJ charge me with the exact same civil rights violations that I've spent years pounding my fist on the desk demanding that they enforce on other people. You know, and nothing says systemic racism like storming into a Sunday sermon yelling about ICE while live streaming it. You're so oppressed. The real victim here is clearly the man that used to lecture everybody else, from a man who said, and I quote, "There is a reason that the First Amendment is first. It is the bedrock of our Constitution." Quoting Don Lemon, "When the First Amendment becomes optional, democracy becomes hollow." And we are watching the Bill of Rights praised in speeches and ignored in practice. The First Amendment especially has become a target. Yeah, these were quotes from Don Lemon, who is now trying to say that his First Amendment rights trump the First Amendment rights of people who were trying to express their First Amendment protection of freedom of worship in America. But we live in a society now that's stratified into levels of people who are, you know, their rights trump other people's rights. You know, like I said, in the past, it's masterpiece cake all over again. his right to practice his religion was trumped by the rights of a gay couple to have somebody make them a wedding cake. But it's hypocrisy on parade. I mean, imagine. This would be like if Trump just all of a sudden started whining about how other people say mean things about him. I really don't know. I really don't understand why people have to be so cruel. It hurts my little feelings. It really does. What did I ever do to them? I see these comments and these headlines, and it makes me so sad. So very sad. So sad. If you're ever wondering why I'm up at 2 a.m., it's because I can't sleep. Thinking about all the mean, hurtful things that people say about me, I can't sleep unless I cry myself to sleep, which I do every night. Sometimes I just crawl under the Resolute desk there in the Oval Office and hide under there. I pretend it's a fort. It's my safe space. I call it Fort Resolute. And no one can hurt me when I'm in Fort Resolute, and Melania brings me Little Debbie snack cakes and a Diet Coke. And I just spend all day hiding out in Fort Resolute. Yeah, meanwhile, back in the real world where Trump is not to be trifled with, Iran is still in the fa phase of FAFO. They're still in the fa phase. They haven't foed enough, apparently. They still want to fa. Because Iran has a list of demands. Now get a load of this list of demands from the Iranians. What's left of the regime? Iran revealed a 10-point plan for peace with the United States. Here's what's in it. Now, this is the public plan. This is not the one that Trump is actually working with. I suspect the one Trump is working with is not nearly as ballsy as this one. The publicly available plan demands that the U.S. end all primary and secondary sanctions against Iran, all of them, including the ones Obama ironed out back in the day. As well, that Iran would receive complete control over the Strait of Hormuz. The plan, it goes further. The plan demands an end to U.S. attacks on Iran and its allies, a withdrawal of all U.S. forces from everywhere in the Middle East. Why? Why would we ever do that? The release of frozen Iranian assets. Obama didn't give them enough money. And a UN resolution stating the agreement will be binding. Nope. Oh, and the U.S. would need to compensate Iran for all damages. So, rebuild their nuclear program for them. That's not happening. And they would accept Iran's right to enrich uranium. Nope, you can't be trusted. You've shown time and time again you cannot be trusted with splody things. Nope. Is that all? Anything else? Yes, we'd also like $1 million from Savannah Guthrie, and Mullahs get unlimited gameplay at any Dave & Buster's location. Oh, also Iran gets to bomb one major American city. We're thinking about giving them Portland. And in exchange, and also they get ownership of Sydney Sweeney. That's and in exchange, Iran would commit to not build nuclear weapons and enter into peace agreements with its regional neighbors. Yeah, right. Trump should just text back, GTFOH, and Fat Vance laughing meme. I mean, come on. You got to be kidding me. It reminds me of that old joke. It's a great old joke. Young guy fresh out of college with no experience, just a degree, walks into a job interview, first job interview. So the boss says, well, what kind of salary are you looking for? And the kid says, well, I'd like $150,000 a year to start. And the boss says, I tell you what, how about we throw in a corner office, 5 weeks vacation, and free company housing? And the kid goes, wow, are you kidding? And the boss said, yeah, but you started it. That's this deal that Iran wants. And the Democrats nearly broke their necks pivoting in 24 hours from Trump's going to annihilate an entire civilization to, oh, the president caved and surrendered. Schumer tweets, Trump is a military moron. His war with a price tag of $44 billion and $4 gas made us worse off today than we were when he started it. And if he restarts this war, we will be in even worse shape. We must pass our war powers resolution to end this war for good. First off, the Democrats attempt to try to convince people that Operation Epic Fury was a total disaster for Trump and a loss from the U.S. So how much worse are we? How much worse off is the world now that Iran's Air Force, Navy, nuclear sites, most of their aerospace, most of their leaders dead, many industrial sites used to make bomb building components are all destroyed. So the world is worse off? But let's compare, why don't we, while watching this classic footage right here. Gas was $5 a gallon in June of 2022 under Biden. Biden gave Ukraine $182 billion. So now we have $4 gas and price tag of $44 billion. Chucky needs to figure out where he is on this, because a year ago, Schumer was saying that Trump was too soft on Iran. And then if you go back to 2015, Chuck Schumer explained, he yanked the wheel then, explaining why he didn't support Obama's Iran nuclear deal.
In the first 10 years of the deal, there are serious weaknesses in the agreement. First, inspections are not anywhere, anytime. The potential delay of as many as 24 days before we can inspect undeclared suspicious sites is troubling. It is true that declared sites will be monitored. That is one of the positives of this deal. But if Iran is going to cheat, it will not be at a declared site with the eyes of the world watching. It will be at a non-designated site. And if Iran is trying to cheat, it will certainly delay the inspection process as long as possible. Even more troubling is the fact that the U.S. cannot demand inspections unilaterally. We require a majority of the 8-member Joint Commission. Assuming that China, Russia, Iran will not cooperate, inspections would require the votes of all 3 European members of the P5+1, as well as the EU representative. It is a reasonable fear. Once the Europeans become entangled in lucrative economic relations with Iran, they may not want to rock the boat. To me, the very real risk that Iran will not moderate and will instead use the agreement to pursue its nefarious goals is too great.
I don't care who else is auditioning for the next Batman. Chuck Schumer needs to be cast as Two-Face. And in fact, let's just go ahead and do the whole movie here. Let's see. We know that we want Jerry Nadler as the Penguin. That's a given. See, this is why you have to watch the show on YouTube instead of listening. Here's Trump as Batman. And, of course, Fat Vance as Fat Robin. And we almost went with Kamala Harris as the Joker, but because of the laugh. But we decided to go again instead with the classic. And speaking of Hillary Clinton, she was also on the list of attack Iran politicians before Trump did it. She was for it. But now Trump is for it, so I'm against it.
I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic.
And the left is trying to say now that clip is taken out of context. And we need to nuance that. Yes, by all means, let's make sure we nuance words coming out of a politician's mouth. Here's the problem with liberals saying, well, what she meant is that the same internet that never forgets, that brought us that clip, also brings us Barack Obama's reaction at that time. During the 2008 Democratic presidential primary, Hillary Clinton gave this interview on ABC's Good Morning America on April 22nd, 2008. When asked what the U.S. would do if Iran launched a nuclear attack on Israel, she said, now, when asked about the nuclear attack on Israel, and this is where the left is saying, well, that's specifically what she was talking about. She said, I want the Iranians to know that if I'm president, we will attack Iran. We would be able to totally obliterate them. Well, Obama took her to mean this more broadly and more loosely and less nuanced, because Obama said that one of the things that we've seen over the last several years is a bunch of talk using words like obliterate. Now, it doesn't actually produce good results, so I'm not interested in saber rattling. I think it's the language of George Bush. He argued that tough-sounding talk and threats had not been effective in dealing with Iran, and that he preferred a more measured, diplomatic approach combined with a clear deterrent, like giving them billions of dollars in cash. That they have absolutely, we promise, we pinky swear they did not use to fund Hamas and Hezbollah. No. They used different money for that. No, my friend. That money was from a different pile of cash over here. We keep these things separate. We're very meticulous. We have very good records of this money over here that Obama gave us is not for Hamas and Hezbollah. We use this money over here for that. What's that? Show you the books? No. We're not going to do that. We will not be showing you the books. Obama clarified that he would forcefully and swiftly react to any actual nuclear attack on Iran, by Iran on Israel or U.S. allies, but he rejected the dramatic language that Clinton was using. So Hillary Clinton was talking tough on Iran. She wasn't talking about doing something preemptive like Trump has done. But then again, none of us, including, I'm sure, Hillary Clinton, I don't know what level of clearance she still has as a former U.S. senator, but none of us have access to the intel that Trump has. So we can second guess and we can Friday morning quarterback this all day. What we don't know is what Trump knows, whatever that is. And I was actually, quite frankly, hoping that he would lay some of that out in this last speech that he gave recently. He did not. And maybe he's learned from history. Maybe he's learned from the Iraq War debacle with Colin Powell that you can have satellite photos and all these graphics and all this proof, and then it turns out that, well, half the country doesn't believe you anyway. So what does it matter? And again, you're watching a guy right now who has a family member who was in the U.S. military during the Iraq War and told me, hey, I guarded a plane load of WMD that we took out of Iraq during the Iraq War. So I know secondhand that in the end, Iraq did have weapons of mass destruction. And I think really, honestly, the Bush administration at one point went, look, this is a PR battle that we've clearly lost. So whatever.
And now, how to beat the high cost of gas with President Trump.
Well, it's your favorite president back again with another brilliant genius idea, a presidential gas tip. Instead of taking your tax refund check and going to Disney World to blow it on spring break, take that $900 and bring the family instead down to the local Circle K. You'll enjoy a relaxing and exciting time. There's lots to do, so much. The kids will love taking turns squeegeeing the windshield, so delightful, almost as thrilling as Splash Mountain. Pick from a wide variety of exotic foods on the roller grill. It's not just for hot dogs anymore. So much to do, so much fun. The kids can horse around over by the hoses and squeal with delight as they spray each other with compressed air. Pitch a tent and just sit and watch them change the prices on the sign in real time. What a terrific, terrific time. Best vacation ever. And that $900 should fill both of your cars almost all the way to the tippy top.
This has been How to Beat the High Cost of Gas with President Trump.
Well, breaking news now. Breaking news from the Babylon Bee. World in shock as Trump takes seemingly extreme position to negotiate best possible deal. People around the globe were left in utter shock as President Trump staked out a seemingly extreme position in order to negotiate the best possible deal. Media members were left stunned as Trump did not actually usher in a nuclear apocalypse, but instead extracted concessions from Iran in a ceasefire deal. He's never done anything like this, said New York resident Stacey McBride. I was sure all of Iran would be nuked by now. Trump always speaks literally with no exaggeration whatsoever. Not once have I seen Trump establish an outlandish initial position to move the framework of negotiation and then come back to the middle. Trump really should have written out his strategy somewhere so that he wouldn't scare us like this. Several journalists have called for Trump to be prosecuted for war crimes for frightening them so badly. After Iran positioned women and children as human shields, Trump posted something on the internet that spooked me. That's a war crime, explained columnist David French. Given Trump's history of meekly negotiating without using bombastic language to win better deals, the only logical conclusion was that we were all about to die. I have yet to stop urinating on myself. At publishing time, the world had expressed total disbelief that Trump would use an expletive when describing a terrorist state. By the way, the Bee is also reporting that Trump tells Iran this is its last warning before he sends Bruce Springsteen to perform there.
Springsteen is locked and loaded, Mr. Ayatollah. Don't make me do it. Frankly, I don't want to send Bruce over there. I love the Iranian people. No one should be hurt like that, but this is war. War is ugly. Not Rosie O'Donnell ugly, but very ugly. This is your final warning. Don't make me send Bruce Springsteen over to do a benefit concert.
But yes, Trump had an outrageous tweet. It's the Jack-in-the-Box gif all over again, as liberals are caught completely off guard by the shy and retiring, mild-mannered, milquetoast Donald Trump, who said something completely unexpected and so out of character for him, which launched the Trump is not a Christian debate. Well, maybe debate is not the right word. I guess narrative. The left, popped up to point their fingers and go, ooh, Trump dropped an F-bomb on Easter weekend. Yes, he did. Yes, Trump is not a Christian. Still not a Christian. And trust me, the left would lose their minds on that glorious day if Trump ever did accept Christ. They would not be able to cope. Well, it's the gift of grace. It's available to anybody. Even, George Soros is not beyond salvation. I'm trying to think of the worst possible human being that I can come up with. One that we all agree is loathsome. But yes, Trump is not a Christian. Shocker. Shocker. The Hill wrote an opinion piece on the idea of Christian nationalism, which is a term that's being bandied about a lot lately. Here's a snippet of the Hill's piece. We like to argue that separation of church and state needs to remain in place because the government cannot endorse Christianity over Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, atheism, or even Satanism, and they are right. The question to Christian nationalists should be this. First of all, I don't know any Christian nationalists. Again, I want to make a T-shirt that's a Venn diagram, and it says, loves America on one side and loves Jesus on the other, and then in the middle, it just says Christian nationalist. Because that seems to be the criteria for being a Christian nationalist. You love your country and you love Jesus. That's it. Christian nationalist. Those two things are bad. I get it. And when you put them together, super evil. Super evil. I used to say back in the 90s that eventually the term those evil Christians would enter the American lexicon. And here we are. Those evil Christians. The Hills piece says the question to Christian nationalists should be this: which Christianity do you want to endorse? Which Bible do we teach? The Catholic one or the Protestant one? Is Christianity the Catholic faith of Vice President J.D. Vance, which tells us to pray to Mother Mary? Is Christianity the Protestant faith of House Speaker Mike Johnson, which tells us that a personal relationship with God is all we need for salvation? Which one is right? Why are the others wrong? Should teachers be allowed to evangelize their Christian faith to students? What if those teachers are Mormons? Would you want your kids learning that the Book of Mormon is the Word of God? Well, look, I mean, this is to me, this is a false argument. This is a typical fallacy of a false argument, this is why we have private schools in the United States, where you can have your children taught anything that you like, anything that you believe. But that's a problem for the left, you see, because we can't have radical religious views taught to any children. Never mind that we don't know what the definition of radical is. It's wholly subjective. Wholly, W-H-O, not H-O-L-Y. It's wholly subjective, but we know it when we see it, don't we? Don't we? It's just like media bias. It's just like disinformation. The article continues, this is why our founding fathers were smarter than we give them credit for. You see, they didn't establish the separation of church and state to protect Americans who weren't Christian. They wanted to protect Christians from each other. Fine. I don't see what the problem is. I don't think we live in a Christian nation. I don't think we're in any danger of becoming a Christian nation. In fact, I see it slip sliding right down the drain, continuing its progress, into debauchery, into the decline of the Roman Empire, unabated. But yes, Donald J. Trump is not a Christian. He is a deeply flawed man who has cheated on all of his wives, who has a massive ego problem, and many, many other character flaws. But find me a man without one, and I'll gladly vote for him or her. I am a deeply flawed man myself. I don't know any other kind. George Washington owned 300 slaves. He used to forcefully pull the teeth of his slaves to make his own dentures. Yes, look it up. Jefferson, Mr. All Men Are Created Equal, owned 600 slaves, twice as many as Washington, knocked up a teenage girl, had 6 children with her, never married her, never freed her, but he had 6 kids with her. Sure, Lincoln freed the slaves, so they could fight for the Union Army, so they could die for the Union. He wanted to send black people back to Africa. Did you know that? To where they all came from. Used to throw around the N-word like he thought he was from the hood or something. And he also mass murdered Indians. FDR put a whole nationality of people in prison camps. And Cousin Teddy, he thought Indians and Filipinos were savages. He mass murdered hundreds of thousands of Filipinos. It's like I always say, Jesus ain't running for president anytime soon. You got to pick from 2 unrepentant sinners almost every time. But to get back to Trump, Iran has been saying death to America for 47 years, and the left has called upon us to show patience and to nuance what they're saying. No, let's not take that literally. No matter how many times they say death to the great Satan, death to the little Satan. Rafsanjani said in 2001 that, they wanted to nuke Israel, but he didn't really mean it. He didn't really mean it. But Trump talks about the death of the civilization in one tweet, and they take that at face value. You can't be a liberal unless you can have it both ways. Welcome back to Mark Moseley Show on social media at Mark Moseley. And please subscribe to this show on YouTube and also on Rumble, if you can find it on Rumble. Sometimes Rumble is weird. Rumble is really weird. You can search for my show on Rumble, and it doesn't come up. And I promise you it's there. So I tell you what, I will try to make sure that I put the link to the channel up on my Facebook page. So follow me on Facebook. Then you can watch the show on Rumble or watch it on YouTube. Well, it's time to check in on ICE. Let's head to the airport and see how many Americans ICE agents have executed.
So another penny only funds more public executions. I don't want to be a part of that. People want to be protected. They don't want to be executed. And that's what ICE is doing right now in our streets.
As of April 9th, 2026, the taping of this show, ICE agents have been visibly deployed at major U.S. airports for 17 days. They began deploying on March 23rd. They are at Chicago O'Hare, Atlanta, New York JFK and LaGuardia, Houston, New Orleans, Newark, Cleveland, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Fort Myers, and others, including San Juan, Puerto Rico. Now, just for Cory Booker and Eric Swalwell, let's take a look at that death toll so far. Oh no, it's on this side over here. Here we go. It's on this side of the screen. Let's put up the let's put it up on the big board. Let's put those big numbers up on the big board there for Operation Airport Gestapo, and the current total number of Americans killed by ICE at the airport is still 0. Are you kidding me? That is Bush League. Wow, that averages out to 0 deaths per day and 0 deaths per airport, although I did have to round that number up. In fact, I asked Grok, have there been any major dust-ups at all at the airport with ICE? And here's what Grok had to say. No documented cases of physical excessive force. For those of you who are just joining us on this show, Grok sounds like Kronk. No documented cases of physical excessive force, for example, beatings, unjustified pepper spray, shootings, or injuries requiring medical attention are specifically linked to ICE's airport assistance duties. Coverage from major outlets describe ICE agents as mostly visible for presence and crowd control, with some ID verification and immigration arrests based on TSA tips or database hits. Reported incidents involving detentions of people with existing final removal orders, but the use of force has not been an issue. But Cory and Eric are out there talking about ICE like a couple of rubes. They're out there talking about assassinations and executions by ICE at the airport. It's like listening to SpongeBob and Patrick. I'm telling you. Hey, SpongeBob. SpongeBob, did you see ICE is at the airport?
That's right, Patrick. I hear they're gunning down Americans left and right.
Yeah, I heard they're electrocuting people.
No, Patrick, executing. They're executing people.
Yeah, we got to stop funding them.
Oh, Patrick, you're so silly. Congress just passed a bill funding ICE for the next 3 years.
Wow. I'm telling you, man, some of these Democrats in Congress are just morons. I mean, we got a lot of morons on our side of the aisle, too. Don't get me wrong. Meanwhile, a violent attack in Fort Myers, Florida is drawing national attention after details about the suspect's background came out. Rolbert Joachim, a Haitian national, is accused of carrying out a brutal hammer attack that killed Nilufar Yasmin, a Bangladeshi immigrant and mother of 2 who worked at a convenience store. Surveillance footage shows Joaquin smashing her car windshield before attacking her repeatedly in the head with a hammer. When she came outside, the assault was sudden, extremely violent, and left her dead at the scene. According to the Department of Homeland Security, he entered the U.S. illegally in 2022, was released into the country due to the Biden administration policies, and later received a final order of removal. However, he remained in the U.S. under temporary protected status. You know, like the temporary protected status that thousands of Ethiopians enjoy since a federal judge has ruled against the Trump administration who wanted to remove them because they no longer have a situation in Ethiopia that is dangerous. And so Trump's like, yeah, they can go on back home now. They had temporary protected status. We should just change it to PPS. Because apparently it is permanent. Once you get here, you can stay forever. We didn't really mean temporary. We meant permanent. Don't tell anybody. Joaquim is now in custody without bond and faces murder charges, with ICE confirming he will be deported regardless of his criminal case outcome. Well, if a judge lets you, you mean. And in the past month, ICE in Boston and New England field offices arrested 5 foreign nationals wanted for murder or homicide in their home countries, some of whom were the subject of Interpol red notices. All 5 had entered the U.S. illegally during the, guess which administration? Only one guess, please. And were living in communities across Massachusetts and Connecticut before being arrested. Now, these are not minor offenses. These are individuals wanted for violent crimes abroad who were able to remain in the country undetected and blend in until law enforcement caught up to them. But listen, it's just ICE that's bad. And we want them gone. Just ICE, of course, just ICE. ICE is the only law enforcement entity that we have an issue with on the left. We very, very deeply respect all other law enforcement.
Can I see a driver's license, sir?
Nah.
All right, can I see an ID?
Nah. Can't see me.
Do you have a driver's license or ID?
Yep, I do.
Can I see it?
Nope.
Why is that?
Because I'm in a rush to go somewhere and you stop me from going where I gotta go.
Well, you're going to keep waiting here longer if you don't show me an ID. I'm going to need to see insurance, too.
You didn't need to see a thing. All you needed to see, really, was the fact that I have plates and that my was valid. You saw that. Now, let me be on my way, because I have to be to work.
All right, so when you get pulled over...
Oh, my God.
When you get pulled over, you have to show valid insurance and valid driver's license.
Please keep on doing what you want to do. Get away from my phone.
4710-4, thank you. When you get pulled over in the state of Illinois, you have to show a driver's license and insurance.
No.
So if you don't...
I know, but in all honesty, I only have to show it when you have a reasonable reason to stop me.
Yeah, you didn't have plates on your car.
I literally got hit by a school bus, and I still somehow drive this vehicle every day to work.
Do you have insurance?
Do you think I am going to not ride with the plate in the back of the car like I'm supposed to, because I can't put it on the back of the car?
Do you have insurance or a driver's license or an ID?
Oh my! You're not having it, but you can see it. Look.
Yeah. Hey, just cooperate.
Get out of that! Touch me! Can you stop? Get out of the car! You're literally, bro. My back is literally hurt from the last time I got in an accident. Don't ever touch me, bro.
And now, Shallow Thoughts by Al Ibril.
I saw this guy today at Starbucks with no iPhone, no tablet, no laptop. He just sat there, drinking coffee, like a psychopath.
Welcome back to Mark Moseley Show. Time for This Week in Media Bias. First up, the headline: Melania Trump's ill-fitted Easter look steals the spotlight at the White House event for all the wrong reasons. That's right. Melania Trump had a fashion faux pas, according to this opinion piece. 2026 White House Easter egg roll event not only drew attention for its notably bland guest list, but also for the fashion faux pas by Melania Trump. While her husband, Donald Trump, was in high spirits and rang in the festivities with the children, Melania appeared to be wearing an ill-fitted outfit. Before handing the microphone to the First Lady, Trump repeated his joke about his wife being a movie star. Pretending not to be able to spot her at first, he addressed her later and said, "I think this is our First Lady. What do you think of our First Lady? She's a movie star," referring to her documentary. The FLOTUS engaged in a book reading session with her kids about a bunny, staying true to the theme of Easter. However, it was Melania's outfit that was not so joyful and instead came across as rather ill-fitted and monotone. I'm not showing you the pictures yet for a reason. We got to build this up. The former model tried to compliment her outfit with that of her husband, who had opted for a dark blue suit and gray tie ensemble. The First Lady chose a tight-fitting white top, which was visible underneath a dark blue Ralph Lauren jacket. Melania left the blazer unbuttoned to flaunt the white shirt and the top of her high-waist cream-colored pants. However, her blazer appeared poorly tailored. Furthermore, her Dolce & Gabbana pants looked drastically baggy and ill-fitted. Her pants were seen flapping in the wind as she walked, and were also found to be appeared poorly hemmed, nearly covering her white flats, making her look like a total misfit as a whole. All right, now, having heard all of that, let's take a look at these photos. Would you describe this as ill-fitting? Now, I'm a guy, and I'm older, and so everything I own is ill-fitting, and that's by design. As the great Peyton Manning said,
if I were you, I'd just buy some bigger shirts.
So, at my age, everything is ill-fitting. And listen, I could show you some horrid pics of Jill Biden and maybe one of Michelle Obama, but I won't. I'm better than that. I will take the high road. Oh, the hell I will. There you go. There's a Jill Biden compilation. And here's one of Michelle Obama. Now put the Melania pic back up there and tell me that this is a swing and a miss by the always impeccable Melania Trump. Total media bias. Somebody needs to clean the smudges off their readers. And in other media bias, check out this clickbait headline on X from the Daily Mail from the last week. Get a load of this. Trump's daring extraction of U.S. airmen trapped in Iran almost failed and cost dozens of American lives. The linked article is the long-form piece detailing how the operation nearly went wrong. Planes stuck in mud, under fire, forced to destroy U.S. aircraft, heavy gunfire, etc., but ultimately succeeded without U.S. fatalities. Yes, it could have gone horribly wrong. Of course it could have gone horribly wrong, but it didn't. Put that footage from the Afghanistan withdrawal back up there, just for a reference. And look at how cleverly they worded it. Here's how they worded it. Take a look at the headline. Almost failed and cost dozens of American lives. Not could have cost, not would have cost. No, it was if it did cost American lives the way they worded it. It's meant to be clickbait. It's meant to make you think, oh, people died. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Well, let's pivot now for some lighter stuff. Not that that wasn't hilarious in my circles. That is my idea of comedy right there. It's time for some good news. And everybody knows the old joke about how male men hate dogs and vice versa. It's an old trope. And yes, there are plenty of dogs out there who see the male person as a stranger trying to take over my kingdom with these sharp pieces of paper, must bark at them to stop the invasion. But it's not always true. Ian Burke, a mail carrier in the Denton area of North Texas, had a dog on his route that seemed pretty cool with the mail carrier. Floyd the dog belonged to an elderly Vietnam War veteran named Ken Meyer. And every day, Floyd would happily greet Ian when he delivered Floyd's owner's mail. He got downright excited to see Ian. He would wag his tail and jump up and down, looking for pats and scratches and some love, and they became good friends over the years. Well, one day Ian showed up to deliver the mail, and Floyd was not there to greet him. And Ian thought perhaps something tragic had happened to Floyd, and he was right. There had been a death at the house, but it was Floyd's owner, Ken, who had passed away. Now, sadly, Ken didn't have any family to take his dog, and so Floyd was unceremoniously dumped at a local animal shelter. And knowing that time is of the essence in these kind of situations, especially with Floyd being a 70-pound German Shepherd Border Collie mix, That's not a highly adoptable dog. Well, as soon as Ian heard the news, he rushed to the shelter, arriving early in the morning to be first in line and adopted Floyd immediately. Ian said, "I felt kind of responsible to take care of him. I think that Ken would be pleased to know that his former mailman is taking good care of his dog. Floyd now has a forever home with the mailman who used to visit him daily. Ian is retired now, so now he and Floyd get to greet a new mail carrier every day at their home." And finally, our doofus of the week. You're a big, stupid doofus. No, you are. No, you. In Cleveland, 20-year-old Ricky Flowers led police on a high-speed car and foot chase. And, you know, sometimes these things don't end very pretty. But Ricky's had a perfect fairy tale ending. Chef's kiss. Ricky pulled over by cops in a routine traffic stop, took off. When it was discovered he was driving with a suspended license, he peeled out, leading cops on a high-speed chase through the streets of Cleveland. At one point, Ricky finally lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a wall, at which point he jumped out of the car and took off on foot. And he almost got away because Ricky is fast and young and, you know, on a really good diet. He was quite athletic. Police described him as being in very good shape. Ricky actually scaled a wall that none of the cops could get over. In fact, it was a 30-foot high wall. But Ricky Flowers did not elude police that day and instead brought justice to himself. Because the wall he scaled was the wall into a jail. The 30-foot high wall should have been your first clue there, Ricky. Congratulations, you're the big, stupid doofus of the week. That's the show. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, may God bless you with health, joy, and wisdom.